Ladders can be found throughout every industry and in almost every workplace or job site. In fact, you've probably used them without incident since childhood, going up water slides or tree houses, or to get on the roof, clean the gutters, or trim trees. But they are so commonplace in our lives, it can be and is easy to overlook and even ignore the safety guidelines and warning signs. On that note, the following is a top 10 list of the most frequently cited standards for 2015. This particular list comes from the United States, but the findings are strikingly similar no matter the country. Regardless, these types of lists are published as a means of altering the industry about commonly cited standards. The hope then is that you take whatever steps necessary to both find and fix recognized hazards before they become a problem. Interestingly enough, these same hazards show up on these types of lists time after time, and year after year injuries are sustained and lives are lost. Even worse, as far as falls are concerned, the number of violations are increasing. It is climbing the list toward the top. And why? What is it going to take for workers to realize the task at hand is serious and dangerous? First and foremost, safety starts with the knowledge and basic understanding of the standards governing your specific province, industry, and work situation. These are just some of the ladder standards, but it is your responsibility to be familiar with and heed all standards specific to your industry, province, city, and company. Additionally, because there are so many different types of ladders, we cannot possibly cover every single model, make, and use. It is also your responsibility to make sure that you receive job-specific training when using unfamiliar equipment or when asked to carry out a new task. No matter the equipment, it is common to hear workers and even employers ask, where does it state workers need to be trained? Can't a worker also be deemed qualified based on experience? No. Ultimately, in the case of an accident, the investigating entity will want to see proof of training. If you cannot furnish that proof and can instead only offer up that the worker came into the job with 20 years of experience, you'll most likely be in trouble. Experience may qualify a worker, but very rarely will experience alone suffice. A history of working for any given amount of time does not necessarily mean the operator knows how to operate safely and competently. So there is just no getting around this one fact. Every worker must receive training prior to using ladders on their own. Requirements for refresher training are also very specific. It's important to note the last two conditions for refresher training. This term type also causes a lot of confusion, especially because ladder types can be harder to differentiate due to how similarly they function. Generally speaking, though, by type it means portable ladder versus fixed ladder versus A-frame versus non-self-supporting and so on. Can you think of any other differences that might make a ladder a different type, thus requiring additional training? The standard also says that each operator must be reevaluated every 3 years to see if they are still competent to operate the equipment. A so-called free pass cannot be awarded based on experience, age, or time on the job. The extent of the evaluation is to be determined by the employer, but should include a written and practical examination that prove continued competency. Initial training as well as any evaluations or refresher courses must be documented with the name of the person or persons who taught the class or conducted the evaluation. Although wallet cards as proof of training are not specifically required for ladder workers, many companies and work sites do require on-site proof that you have been trained. At the very least, in the case of an investigation, investigators will want to see proof of proper and consistent training, in the way of training outlines, class lists, training goals, tests, certificates, and so on. Generally speaking, all workers share the responsibility to ensure that they and their coworkers have received training by a qualified person. Read and understood the manufacturer's operating instructions and safety rules as found in the operator's manual. Read and understood all decals, warnings, and capacity plates on the equipment and attachments. Performed a thorough pre-shift inspection each day prior to operating the machine.